I'm getting attracted to my boss, but I'm straight, aren't I? Some days, I seriously consider faking my own death just to get out of this job. Dramatic? Maybe. But when you work for Connor Wayne, the youngest COO of a high-profile advertising firm, you start thinking outside the box. My job? Make sure he sails smoothly. If he's thriving, the company's thriving. And if the company's thriving, well, let's just say my sanity is a necessary sacrifice. Now, you'd think with all this complaining that my boss is some uptight, entitled prick. He's not. In fact, he's great. A little too great. Charismatic, sharp, relentless, funny in a way that makes you let your guard down. He reads a room like he built it. Makes you feel like you're the most important person in it. And then, right when you start thinking, wow, what an incredible guy, he drops an impossible task on your desk with a dazzling smile and zero remorse. Connor Wayne is exhausting. And as his assistant, I bear the brunt of it. My job description ranges from the mundane, coffee runs, scheduling meetings, making sure his life doesn't implode, to the absurd. Once I had to book a private jet for a first date. Don't ask. And speaking of dates, Connor, a serial dater. He's never not in a relationship. It's honestly impressive. I've seen people cycle in and out of his life faster than a corporate rebrand. And every time, I wonder, why? Is he just bad at relationships? Does he choose the wrong people? Or is it something else? Despite the chaos, I like working for him. He's magnetic. The kind of person who makes you want to be around him. Who fuels your ambition. Who makes you laugh even when you're dead on your feet. And then, just when I start thinking, you know what? Maybe this job isn't so bad. BAM! Another insane task lands on my desk, along with that signature grin. And suddenly, I'm reconsidering my entire life. Earlier that morning, it had been a standard workday. Coffee runs, screening personal calls, dodging a particularly concerning message from Marcel, his current boyfriend. I tried not to think too much about it. Connor waltzed into the office, animated as ever, pitching ideas to a new client. He breezed past my desk, threw me a wink, one that landed uncomfortably in my stomach, and disappeared into his corner office. Minutes later, my phone rang twice. My daily summoning. I stepped in and there it was. The smile. Bright, charming. But today it made that uneasy feeling in my gut worse. You summoned me, Connor? He rubbed his hands together, eyes twinkling. Ah, yes, David. Wonderful David. Isn't it a beautiful day? I glanced out the window. Sure? Well, I have a small favor. Nothing huge, just need you to swing by the house after work. Wanted to tell you now before I forgot. I nodded. Yeah, of course. No problem. I turned to leave, but hesitated. By the way, not sure if you checked your messages, but Marcel sent something. Seemed important. Connor stilled, just for a second. The brightness dimmed, shoulders sinking slightly before he recovered, offering a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Thanks, David. I saw it. I'll handle it. I hesitated again. He wasn't himself. I had seen Connor at his worst. Frustrated, exhausted, hungover. But this? This was different. Are you okay? His gaze flickered to mine, and for a split second I swore he was about to say something real. But then, there it was again. That same easy, practiced grin. Yeah, of course. Don't worry about it. I walked out, but something about that exchange sat wrong. Connor could fake enthusiasm like it was his job, but this wasn't just him being dramatic. Something was wrong. The rest of the day felt off. No absurd demands. No last-minute strokes of genius that sent me running across the city. He mostly stayed in his office, went out for lunch, came back, and took calls. For Connor, that was practically suspiciously low maintenance. And now? Now I was counting down the hours until I found out why. Later that day, I used the key I had to let myself into his apartment. It was almost dinner time, and since I had been pretty restless about Connor, I decided to come in earlier. The sight I was met with was appalling. It had been days since I had to be in his house because he told me he was having a long weekend in with Marcel. Now I was met with unsavory items littered all over the living room, which is not normal for Connor. He was a neat freak. I called out to him and got no answer. I looked in the kitchen and it was untouched. Not a soul or even the ghost of a soul in the kitchen. Eventually, I found him in his room, buried deep in his closet. Connor? He emerged underneath the clothes. "Hey, David! You're early." He flashed me that bright smile again. I scanned the room. Yeah, I didn't have much to do after work. You seem to not need me much, so I was free sooner. What is going on here? I am going through my closet and the entire house. Redecorating, really, and it's a very long, very tedious job, and it's also boring to do so alone. Could you help? Okay. But you don't usually ask me to work like this. Plus, wouldn't it be better if you did it with Marcel? A bonding experience? His shoulders fell again, and I regretted saying what I said immediately. I'd love to, if he didn't dump me 3 days ago. My eyes shot up in shock. Oh no, I'm so sorry, Connor. How are you doing? He shrugged. I've had better days, David. You know that. I just hate feeling so defeated and sad. It's not my thing at all. And I couldn't do this on my own, and I'm going crazy. Please? He looked up at me, pleading. There was this sadness in his eyes that I didn't usually see. He looked really run down, and I couldn't tell him no. So I yielded. I joined him in the heap of clothes, and we made piles, to keep and to donate. We worked in silence mostly, but not the Connor Wayne silence I was used to. An uncomfortable one. I searched my mind for a normal question to ask, but I couldn't shake the curiosity that took over my head. Why'd you decide to redecorate? He looked up at me and slumped. Marcel and I had a fight. A big one. He said that I was too friendly with people, that I flirted too much. He said he stopped coming to the office to see me because of... Connor paused and made eye contact with me. We argued a lot. A whole lot. Then he said he couldn't do it anymore. He went into every room, taking everything that belonged to him, leaving a mess in his trails, with me on his tail. He packed up and moved out within an hour. He was special to me, and I really, really did like him a lot. Longest relationship I'd ever been in. But my personality scared him too much to stay, so he left. And he left a mess behind him. And everything just started to remind me of him. I didn't want to feel suffocated. Decided to change everything. But it's been a very long process, and I couldn't do it alone. Thank you for not saying no. I shrugged. It's my job not to anyways, but I'm glad I can help. And I'm really sorry about what happened. He gave me a small smile, and his gaze lingered on mine longer than it should have. And that uneasy feeling came back to my stomach. I cleared my throat and went back to the clothes. Connor had an unusual amount of clothes, so it took us over 2 hours to get through the heap. We made small talk, and I got answers to questions that I always wondered about him. I mean, sure, we worked closely, but I wasn't above boundaries. But today was different. He seemed to be in a sharing mood, and I didn't hate hearing about the other side of him that existed. He spoke in a soft, calm voice that was a stark contrast to the bubbly, megaphonic sound he exuded throughout the week when he was bursting with ideas. We talked about the clothes, where he had been when he got them, his thought process when he got them. He was still the same person, talking animatedly when something got him excited. His eyes shone like a little child, and he giggled a lot. It was also the first time I saw him in a relaxed light. He didn't seem overburdened by work, and it just felt like we were two friends hanging out and talking. Every so often, he'd smile directly at me, or send a flirty remark my way, and that uneasy feeling would return. It had me questioning things that I thought about myself, because if I remember correctly, I stayed in that house and admired everything about the person Connor was. I enjoyed watching him talk and tell stories, and I didn't even realize it. After the clothes were done, he offered me a cup of coffee. His kitchen was divine. I'd always been very vocal about that. It was a brilliantly set up room, well equipped and beautifully furnished. I had to admit, the man had taste. I sat on the counter while he brewed the coffee on the opposite side of me. I bet I tired you out today. You work with me all day, and now I hijacked your night. He moved around the kitchen fluidly. I chuckled. Other than your excessive qualities, you're actually the most subtle boss a PA could have. I'll let you in on a secret. He leaned in while I whispered in his ear. Most of the other personal assistants I talk to hate their bosses. They don't have lives. He burst out laughing. You're kidding. I held out 2 right fingers. Honest to God, you're a really good boss, and I don't mind helping you out when you need it, employee or not. He took the kettle off the stove and poured it into the cups of coffee grounds. Thank you, David. It's nice to know I'm needed somewhere at least. He slid the cup over to me. You're always needed, Connor. You're really amazing. I took a sip of the coffee. I felt his eyes follow my movements, which made me self-conscious all of a sudden, but I made no mention of it. He came over and sat next to me, leaning in, nudging me. You're always listening to me talk. What about you? Life? Relationships? Come on, talk to me. I smiled, hugging the warmth of the cup. Well, I live alone, I'm an only child, and I haven't given myself time to have relationships. Don't think I've had a girlfriend in years, actually. Connor shifted in his seat. His expression seemed to change, and he took a deep breath. That's gotta be lonely. What about friends? I have friends, Connor. I just work more than I see them. I shrugged. He grinned. You should ask your boss to give you time off. I shook my head. Oh, so you're a funny guy, huh? He shrugged and held my gaze yet again. The eye contact lasted quite a long time, and I knew I should have looked away. The uneasy feeling came back. Butterflies. I had been feeling butterflies in my stomach, all because of Connor. His smile disappeared now, and his expression was guarded. He leaned in closer to me, and my body voluntarily leaned forward as well. There was no sound to be heard but the shudder of our short breaths. We were centimeters away. One nudge, and our lips would collide. Then I backed away and got up. I'm sorry, I don't know what this is. I have to go, and I walked out the door. 2 weeks later. Drat. Double drat. Connor was stuck in my head. Why was Connor stuck in my head? Because I liked Connor. How could I like Connor? I never liked guys before. It didn't seem right. In all of the ways to figure this out, I had to have a crush on my boss? How cliché could I get, really? The day after the near kiss, I woke up to a message from Connor asking me to come straight to the office. I got there and he offered me a seat, slid over a cup of coffee. I took a whiff of it, a frappuccino with foam and extra cream. He knew how I liked my coffee. He sat me down to apologize for the night before, told me it was the heat of the moment, feeling vulnerable about Marcel, and he didn't mean to put me in an awkward spot. I smiled, brushed off the apology, and told him I understood. I took the coffee and went to my desk and tried to bury myself in work. All of a sudden, I noticed he was very much in my peripheral vision. I hadn't noticed it before, but now he was all I could notice. I caught myself staring at him while he worked on files and got distracted. Even when he wasn't anywhere near me, I'd think about him and that near kiss. And I'd started to wonder how it would feel if we actually did kiss. On the other hand, Connor seemed back to normal. He was his usual peppy, over-inspired self and back to bombarding heavy workloads on me. I couldn't complain, and let's be honest, I didn't want to. The more work he gave me, the less time I had to think about him, so I silently appreciated the mounds of work. The thing that really got me, though, was that Connor seemed to want to work closer together more often. In addition to the calls I had to make and meetings I had to set up, he insisted I work on briefs with him in his office, or that I accompany him to the client meetings. Then he'd dismiss the driver and drive us there himself. He asked me over to work on his redecorating as well, and spending more time with him didn't help my situation. My heart would pound more often, and my breathing would seize, and my reflexes would tingle every time he got within meters of my space. And his excessively friendly personality wasn't helping. He'd smile at me, nudge me, or grab my hand during a burst of inspiration, and I'd lose all my cool. It was getting hard to handle. 1 week later, there came the unfortunate part of liking someone, where telling them became an option. I wondered what it would be like to tell Connor about my feelings, fantasizing about finally feeling him kiss me and feeling up every part of him. My hands tracing out the outline of his perfect body. It was a very intense feeling of attraction for me. A feeling I had never gotten before from anyone in my life. Every day that passed, I leaned into the possibility of letting him know how I felt. And I even let myself believe that he did feel the same way for me. It wasn't hard to do so. We had already had a special moment together, and I let myself interpret his newfound love for working together as his way of being around me. He called me into his office yet again, the desk phone snapping me out of my current daydream. I walked into his office, and a smile plastered on his face. "So, wonderful, David. Would you mind having dinner with me tonight? There's some news I want to share with you first, before it becomes public knowledge." I felt the heat rise to my face instantly. He wants to have dinner? With me? And make me privy to some top-secret news? No way in hell was I saying no. "Yeah, of course. Just let me know where and I'll be there." I walked out of his office, trying very hard to contain my excitement. All of a sudden, the seconds on the clock slowed down and time didn't want to run out. I occupied myself with any and everything, so I could stop fidgeting and counting the minutes. Later that evening, finally, I had to refrain from referring to this dinner as a date. I mean, PAs eat with their bosses literally all the time. And I had eaten with Connor many, many times before, so I didn't want to get ahead of myself. But then again, he personally asked to go to dinner with me. He gave me an address, a chain restaurant. Normally, I book all his reservations, but this was already ready. All I needed to do was show up. I got there relatively early and had a glass or two of champagne to calm my nerves. After a few moments, I caught the shiny brown curls of Connor walking towards me. I stood up, a smile on my face. Then I saw him turn around and motion to someone. He stretched his hand and held the other person's hand, and my heart sank. Sandy blonde hair, tall, handsome, blue eyes, and a gorgeous, bright smile. Their hands were laced together when Connor finally found me and waved. They strode over to the table, and Connor had his bright smile on his face again. Only this time, it wasn't directed at me anymore. "David, I'm so glad you came. I wanted to introduce you to Eric, my boyfriend. I plastered a fake smile on my face as Eric and I exchanged handshakes. Firm grip. Nice to meet you, Eric. Connor's been very secretive about you. Even to me, his assistant. Eric let out a deep laugh. That would be my fault. I wanted to make sure we were at a somewhat stable place before we told anyone that we were together. But he did talk about you a lot, so I really was looking forward to meeting you. Connor motioned to the waiter. I think we should order before we get into the deep stuff. The waiter arrived and the menus went around the table. I was going to have a hard time stomaching anything, but I didn't want to make it obvious that something was wrong. So I stuck to ordering a steak dish. Connor ordered his signature ravioli, and Eric ordered the squid ink risotto. Odd choice. After the waiter left, I couldn't help but ask. Connor, I'm honored that you invited me to meet Eric, but why exactly was I singled out to be first to know? Eric and Connor exchanged a look. Well, you're my assistant. All my information flows through you. But more importantly, you're my friend. Maybe even my closest friend. It's a little pathetic, but it's true. And you were there for me after Marcel, and I really appreciated all you did for me then. So I didn't think I'd want to waste time before I told you, at the very least. I smiled at him. Well, thank you. And it's very nice to meet you, Eric. Conversation with them wasn't so bad. Eric was a nice enough guy, and Connor seemed happy, which was all I could have ever asked for. A happy boss means a happy life for me. They had met at the unveiling of a building for one of Connor's clients. They had a drink at the event and hit it off. Cute story. Eric was an architect. The architect of the building that the firm provided advertising for. The next thing they knew, they were seeing each other pretty often, and it became a whole thing. The dinner was torture. They were both so happy it was nauseating. Connor is an affectionate person, so having to watch them kiss was definitely a given. And each time they did, it was like a small, pointy object pricking at me. Death by 1,000 cuts, or whatever they say. After the dinner, I hoped that unless I unfortunately ran into Eric at Connor's, or met him at the lobby of the office, I didn't have to see him much. I thought wrong. I got into the office the next morning with Connor's coffee order. A lot of things on my mind. I walked into the office without knocking, and the sight before me shattered what strand of togetherness I felt. Eric and Connor, making out on Connor's desk, giggling till I came in and interrupted them. They shuffled together, getting their clothes back on. Oh, shit, I'm so sorry. I should have knocked. I have your coffee. I looked everywhere but in front of me, and eyed the small table by the corner. I walked over and left the coffee on the table. I'll just leave this here. I'm really sorry. Without waiting to hear a word from them, I walked out and closed the door behind me. I took a deep breath, but it wasn't the kind of thing a deep breath could solve. I walked past my desk and towards the bathroom. I stood in front of the mirror and stared at myself. Bloodshot eyes, puffy and a single tear trickling down the side. Followed by another, then another, then another. Fuck, I'm a mess. I splashed my face with water a few times and took in a few deep breaths to calm myself. Even if I wanted to break down, this was far from the time and the place. Make sure to knock and keep a straight face at all times. Crying over Connor was a wasted effort. Just fix yourself and get back to work. Over the next few weeks. The scene I was so unlucky to walk into was the scene that presented itself to me so often. I was involved in a very, very large part of Connor's life, so I was nearly everywhere he had to be. And wherever he was, Eric was. Eric showed up at the office so very often. Connor talked about him and to him all the time. He was almost always at Connor's apartment. It was quite a chore. Keeping a straight face was cruel and unusual punishment. The only time I got to deal with how I felt was when I got home and I sobbed myself to sleep, replaying the day's events in my head over and over again. They were beginning to get insufferable. But to any other soul, they were the most adorable couple you ever saw. Sadly, I couldn't see that because I had heavy feelings of my own towards Connor. I mean, could you blame me? The man was gorgeous. His brown curls and his puffy face were perfect. The little stud earrings he always wore gave him an edgy look. The Vans sunglasses he had always pushed up his hair made him even more captivating. He kept his style sense minimalist. He was an ad exec anyway, but it worked for him. His build was just right. And he was such an amazing person. Brilliant, resourceful, hardworking, funny, kind, caring, and understanding. In my eyes, he didn't have a single flaw. So it ached in my heart that he existed so close to me, and I felt all these feelings for him and couldn't do anything about it. At the very least, he was happy. At least he looked happy. And if he was happy, it should be enough for me. Except it wasn't. It got harder and harder to watch and witness him with Eric. I had nothing against Eric. He was a perfectly nice guy. But I was in love with Connor, my boss. He had recalibrated everything I ever thought about myself, and I couldn't go back to the way it was before. So I contemplated. I thought about it long and hard. And one day, I just did it. I knocked on Connor's door. "Come in." That bright smile. "Hey, David, what's up?" I fiddled with the piece of paper in my hand. The letter. "I wanted to give you this and say thank you." I handed him the letter and watched him scan through it. His face fell. It reminded me of how he was when he told me about Marcel, and I hated that he felt that way. But I was suffering. I couldn't get over him if I was around him every waking hour. "What is this?" he asked. "My 2-week notice," I replied. "I know what a 2-week notice is, David. I'm asking why you're giving this to me." His voice was slightly raised, concern in his voice. It doesn't feel right working here anymore. I'm feeling a little restricted, and I'm hoping you'll let me go." "And if I don't want to let you go?" "You have the notice. You're legally required to honor my wishes to quit. Maybe you'll find a better, more competent assistant. I'll still work for you for the next 2 weeks if you need me, but it'll have to be remotely while I find a new job and figure out my next steps." Frown lines etched on his face, confusion evident. "I don't understand, David. Why do you want to quit? Is something wrong?" "It wouldn't matter much if I explained. I just really hope that you'll respect my wishes." It was an honor working with you, Connor. I walked out of the office with a weight lifted off my shoulders. I cleared out my desk and with one last glance, looked at the corner that I worked as the elevator doors rolled shut. I was now free of Connor and Eric. I could make a significant change in my life, and I could stop hurting over something I couldn't control. It was liberating. 2 weeks later. Officially off Connor's payroll. I was beginning my new job in a week, a remote job, which meant I had more time for myself, to get to know myself better, to grow myself. My heart ached less and less each day I didn't see Connor. I only ran into him once, when he asked me to drop something off at his apartment, but that was it. I didn't see Eric, but I told myself I was done monitoring or knowing stuff about Connor Wayne. Seeing him brought back the aching feeling for him, reminded me just how much I cared for him and about him. But I was supposed to move on now. Hell, it was impossible to do so, because after that day, Connor had decided to leave me messages asking to meet with me. He wasn't my boss anymore, so I didn't need to answer his calls. Yet he got more and more persistent. He texted me for 3 days straight till I decided that I needed to put an end to it. Block contact. The next day, Connor Wayne was standing in my doorway. How did you find where I live? Office records. Can we talk? I thought with you not having an assistant, you wouldn't be able to do anything for yourself anymore. Turns out stalking isn't on that list. He pursed his lips. I deserve that, but please, can we talk? I rolled my eyes and opened the door wider. He walked in and looked around the house. Wow, this place is nice. A small smile came to my lips. You're not the only one with good taste in furniture, Connor. He turned to me, an amused smile on his face. Were you always this mean? Or were you just being nice to me because I was your boss? I collapsed on my couch. What do you think? He bit his lip, the ghost of a grin playing on his face. We locked eyes, and for a second that near kiss flooded back into memory. My uneasiness returned. The longing for him returned. I hated how much control he had over me. What do you want to talk about, Connor? Some files of yours missing? I promise I didn't take them. I tried looking anywhere else but him. He chuckled lightly, taking a seat on the single chair next to the couch. He bit his fingernails. Everything about how casual he was acting in my house riled me up. Why'd you really quit? I scoffed. You haven't really been pestering me for 3 days just to know why I quit. He shrugged. Why is that so hard to believe? I stood up, slightly annoyed. Connor, you have a boyfriend. I thought you were happy with him. What does that have to do with why you quit? Shit, he got me. I let out a breath. Look, it doesn't matter why I quit, okay? I couldn't be a personal assistant forever, no matter how great I thought you were. He looked at me. His stupid, big, beautiful eyes looked up at me, begging for an answer. Connor, please don't make me tell you. Please, I pleaded. I'm sorry, David. I need to know. Needing space is a shit excuse, and you know it. Just tell me. I sighed, went over to lean against the wall and cross my arms. We were now locking eyes across the room. A romantic setting, if you disregard the circumstances. If you already know why do you ask? He smiled. Because I want to hear you say it. I scoffed. Better now than never, I guess. I fell in love with you, Connor. There, I said it. I fell for you and I couldn't stand watching you with Eric. So I quit. But I wasn't lying about wanting to do other things. Timing was just right, I guess. Why did you never tell me? I furrowed my brows. Because you were my boss? And when I did want to tell you, you introduced me to Eric? It was kind of a sign. To move on with my life, maybe? I shrugged. I like you too, David. My eyes shot up to meet his. What? He laughed. When we almost kissed that day, I couldn't stop thinking about it. You were like my best friend. Always there for me, taking my shit day after day. And then that night happened and I just really wanted to kiss you. But you said you didn't want to, so I didn't pursue it. Then I introduced you to Eric and you seemed a little off. Then Mark told me he heard you crying in the bathroom, and I pieced it together. But I didn't know what to do. You didn't seem to want me to know, and I couldn't force you to. By the way, Eric and I, always a casual relationship. We were never serious, and we broke it off like a week ago. Then I wanted to talk to you, but you blocked me. So I had to come see you in person. My head was a mess. Connor likes me? He knew I liked him? What is happening in my life? I'm sorry, this is just a lot to process. Connor laughed. So I'm guessing you can figure out why I'm here now. I pursed my lips and nodded. He beamed, walked towards me. I think it's a really good thing you quit, though. I cocked my head in confusion as he got closer. and snaked his hands around my waist. Office dating is frowned upon, and I really hate sneaking around with someone I really like. A smile crept up my face as he dipped his head and caught my lips, and the question in my head since that day was answered. The kiss was everything I imagined and more. Gently, soft, and sweet. I guess wishing I quit my job wasn't such a bad thing. In the end, Connor Wayne wasn't my boss anymore. He was mine, and I was his. He opened my eyes to who I was as a person, and he gave me the feeling that I'd been missing most of my life. Conclusion. Life's funny, isn't it? A few weeks ago, I was stuck in my own head, trying to make sense of everything that was happening. My career, my feelings for Connor, all of it. And now, things aren't exactly perfect, but they feel good. Real. Connor isn't my boss anymore, which takes a bit of the edge off. But he's still Connor. Sharp, intense, and ridiculously supportive in ways I didn't even know I needed. And me? I'm still figuring things out. But for the first time in a while, I'm not doing it alone. These past few weeks have been some of the best. I left a job that wasn't right for me and found something better. Something that challenged me in ways I didn't think possible. Connor's been there every step of the way. Not to lead me, but to remind me that I can handle it. And maybe that's what I love most about him. He doesn't just see who I am. He sees who I can be. We're taking things one day at a time. No grand plans or promises, just figuring it out as we go. But honestly, that's enough for me. So yeah, life doesn't always go the way you expect, but sometimes that's exactly what you need. The end. How about you? Have you ever taken a leap and found something amazing on the other side? Tell me your story in the comments. I can't wait to hear how life surprised you. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become a part of our Rainbow Force and to stay wholesome.